Hey guys, welcome back to the Unleashed podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and today we're chatting with my good friend, Jake Jordan. Jake is actually more than just a friend. He's actually kind of a partner in all this Unleashed stuff. He's behind the scenes, but you're going to see more of him as we talk about here on this episode. But the meat of this episode is goal setting and breaking our goals down. And he has a specific system he uses based on a book called the 12-Week Year, and we took a big goal of getting new members into our Unleashed program and breaking it down, that would look like if we were doing quarterly goals, and just what are the action steps I need to take today in order to hit that goal. And so this is super powerful. If you get overwhelmed with goals, this is the episode for you, because Jake is just a master of breaking it down into small, simple, just make this thing simple, and let's do the things that we can control. So this episode is gold, especially at the beginning of the year when we're thinking about the goals for the year. You're going to love it. Here it is. Jake, welcome back to Unleashed. Good to see you.
Hey Ryan, thanks for having me back.
Of course. Well, you're going to be on more, I guess, right? You're okay with that?
If it's okay with you.
Of course. Yeah. So guys, this is Jake Jordan. He's become one of my best friends now. He and I met back in February of last year, the very first time at a Chicken and Pickle in Grapevine, Texas. It was associated with an event that both went to. A buddy of mine said, "You've got to meet Jake Jordan," and he sent me. This was Scott, and so I remember I was thinking it was possible that you were at that event. And so I remember looking on your Facebook just to figure out what you looked like. And so I looked you up on Facebook at that event, and then I saw you were over there. So we talked at the end of that, and just kind of, it was interesting that we were both in the same position of
Mm,
life as far as, well, business really, where
yeah.
you transitioned out of something, and
Mhm.
I had done that as well, and you're thinking like, what's next in my life? And
Mm.
so we've partnered up on a lot of different stuff. And so guys, just to kind of give you some context, and Jake will help me flesh this out for you. So I went from streams of income to changing my podcast to be Unleashed, because I really feel like in this season, maybe the rest of my life, God's called me to do is to help unleash the body of Christ to do what they're called to do.
Mhm.
And so that's what this podcast is about. But you just see my face every single week. There's a lot of other people behind the scenes that have this same call that I've been working with, and Jake is one of those. And so he's got all these other folks that I think we're going to be able to interview to bring so much more depth and value to this podcast, because I typically think business, but we want to unleash people in every single area of their life. And that's
Mhm.
where we're going to need to leverage experts. And Jake is one of those. So anything else you want to say about that to give some context or help people understand, like, what is Ryan doing now, going from streams of income to this, and what does all this mean? Because we feel like we're a part of a movement.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like where Ryan is headed, and I think some of the ways that we cross paths is that there's a whole lot of really talented people out there that are doing amazing things, and we want everyone to have access to those type of people so that you can do what you're called to do. And so that means instead of going from Ryan having like streams of income, which is a very specific way to be unleashed, it's to figure out how to provide for your family and the way that God built you, and with the smarts and skills and things that you
Hmm.
have, into you could be unleashed a lot of different ways. Obviously, we have some thoughts on what those are and where we should start, but this becomes a platform for us to find more people, interview more people, engage more people in ways that God wants to unleash them, but they're just
Yeah.
somehow blocked or challenged,
Mm.
or honestly just don't know what to do next. So
Yeah.
our thought is to bring on people just either one step ahead of you or 100 steps ahead of you, to share what they did wrong and what they did right,
Yeah.
and just really hear their stories. And then there's a whole lot more behind that. I mean, there's groups. We're building cohort groups for like people with
Hmm.
specific interest of unleashing. We're building a really big library of lots of incredible stuff that you
Hmm.
normally have to go pay to get. It's going to be behind
Yes.
our paywall here, if you will, and
Yeah.
so it's a really exciting global thing. It just
Hmm.
so happens we're starting with Ryan and Jake
That's right.
and a few people, 50 people who are in the group now, and we're just going to see where the Lord takes it.
Yep. And that's at every member or everybelieverunleashed.com if you want to learn more about that group. That's kind of been Eli was saying on Monday, we had a meeting with one of our friends, and he was saying that's kind of our alpha group where we've been meeting on Thursday nights. It's turned into
Hmm.
almost like a little home church in a way.
Hmm.
But our goal with those people is to help them figure out how are you wired? How are you gifted? How are you called? And how can we come alongside you to give you the tools, the resources, the encouragement to help you step into that? That's the
Hmm.
whole premise behind this.
Yep.
But we know that there's just so much more out there that the Lord wants us to do, and
That's right.
we do have a vision for small group curriculum. And like, let's say you have a church and you're a small groups pastor, or your church has small groups. Like, we're building curriculum. We're actually writing a book called Unleashed. It should be done, hopefully, maybe by the end of this month, maybe end of January. Um, one of our guys that's co-writing with is going to be on a trip, so that might make it a little bit challenging for him. But yeah, we just feel like honestly, it's I had this vision as I was praying over the weekend, and
Hmm.
Jake, it's something you said at we had a breakfast about. This is bigger than us.
Hmm.
And it was just that I feel like the guys who are behind the scenes doing this, that we're out there at a in a camp trying to build a fire, and we got these sticks we're rubbing together trying to make a fire happen. And we've been at this for 8 months, and we're starting to see some smoke. And I believe that the Lord is going to breathe on it, because I've
Hmm.
never built a fire this way. Maybe you have.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
You were
tough.
in Boy Scouts or something.
I was.
Okay. You had to blow on it. And I've seen
Uh-huh.
videos, but I
Uh-huh.
believe that the Lord is going to blow on it and
Yes.
cause it to become a fire that's bigger than us, because I
Yeah.
feel like we are just stewarding it now, but we're
Yes.
looking for people that this resonates with. You're like, yes, I want to help the people in my church be unleashed to do what they're called to do. I don't want these folks in my church just to sit there and listen to me preach every single week and go out and do nothing.
Yep.
They're all wired, gifted, and called to do something. You are supposed to, as a pastor, to equip the saints. How are you
Hmm.
equipping them? We want
Hmm.
to help you equip them by providing you with training and curriculum that you could just pretty much just hit play or open a manual, open a workbook, and take these people through a process to find out what God has called them to do and launch them into it.
That's
So
right. Yep.
that's our bigger goal. This podcast is just one way to talk about that and to have some folks that like that sounds cool, want to be a part of that,
Yep.
to contact us.
Yep. Yep. And I'm starting a cohort inside of Unleash myself around solitude because that's something God's really challenged me to is if I can get in solitude and I can really consistently sit down before the Lord and listen,
Yes.
that's how he'll blow on it, right? That's how he'll, what the
Amen.
thing that I'm doing or that we're doing. And so
Yes.
that's just one example of all the kind of different little places where if God's called you to a specific thing, we
Mm.
want you to have a place where you can host it,
Yes.
do it, invite people to it, get resourced for
Yes.
it. That's Unleashed.
Yeah, maybe one example we could give them is we have a couple of friends of ours that have a marriage ministry. Now they have their own community, but let's
Hmm.
go back a couple of years, and just pretend that they feel this call to go out and unleash families, to help families thrive. Essentially,
Yeah.
what they're doing,
Yeah.
they could come underneath the umbrella of Unleash and have an Unleashing Families group within our
Yep.
larger group. Or
Yep.
maybe we have a friend of ours who's a therapist.
Hmm.
We're going to have her on to talk about how emotional health, how maybe emotional sickness or just not feeling good about yourself could stop you from being unleashed. And so
Hmm.
she'll unpack that, because that's not a subject that I feel like I can sit
Yeah.
here and discuss,
Yeah.
by myself. But we'll bring those people on. So if you have a certain niche that you're interested in, it potentially could live
Hmm.
under what we're building, and you
Hmm.
could have your own version or your own cohort, like Jake's talking about with Solitude for CEOs, underneath this bigger movement of
Hmm.
Unleashed.
Yep. 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 We're forming Marvel or DC, whatever. If you're Justice
Mm,
League or you're
yes, that's good.
whatever it might be, we're just trying to make that big round table that we all sit down at, so
Hmm.
that you can have access to what you need and a place because it's lonely out there a lot of times, especially as
Yes,
entrepreneurs. So it's
that's
a
right.
place to go, and we're just happy to invite you in and
Hmm.
see what you've got to offer because we all have something to offer.
That's right. Awesome. Well, let's move on. We were going to talk about, we chatted yesterday about what we could bring. And this is the beginning of the year, and people, a lot of
Mhm.
folks have already thought about their goals for 2025,
Yep.
but
Yep.
some of them haven't. They're like, oh man, just Like I just sent Callan to school for the first day going back for this semester, and so
Yeah.
now it's like I can breathe now. I can think. So some of us are now just. I mean, I've been thinking about my goals for a couple months, but
Hmm.
it's okay if you haven't. We want to help
Hmm.
you think through what are your goals for 2025. And Jake has a specific system that he uses, and he's going to use me as a guinea pig on one of the goals that we have actually for
Hmm.
Unleashed to
Hmm.
help unpack that. So if you got some goals, here's a unique way to look at it.
Hmm. Yep. And the good thing about this system is even if you've already planned your goals, like you and I have, this is a way to achieve them in a way that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Because what I find, so was an executive coach, a business advisor for many years, and was an executive myself before that. And what I often found is that people, including myself, no matter what position you're in, if you're like a solopreneur or if you're someone who's leading an entire business,
Mm-hmm.
you know what you have to do today because people
Mm-hmm.
are shouting at you all the time, like,
Right.
I need this, right? And you know what your big picture kind of vision for the year maybe is a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
But in between, there's so many things that can pull us off course and distract us.
Yes.
I just call it drift. As humans, we drift. It's just, we
Mm-hmm.
drift. And I think that's why Jesus said that the path is narrow to heaven. And we continue to drift off this narrow path. This applies to all the things we do in life as well. So to your point, there is a good book, and actually it's right here. I can grab it. I said that. Now I can't find it. It's not where I left it. Anyway, it's called The 12-Week Year.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, if you've ever worked in corporate, think in quarters because your department or your group or your business
Mm-hmm.
often chart in quarters. So 3 months at a time, and there's 4 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a psychological trick that we always expand to the amount of time that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why Pomodoro timers became really popular. If you're a productivity geek, as you can literally just set it's a little tomato it started,
Yes.
and you just twist it, and it's 5 or 10 or 20 minutes. And when the
Yes.
time goes off, you're done with that task because we get more done in 20 minutes than we do in an hour
Yeah.
if we have a timer for 20 minutes.
Mm,
But that's what this 12-week year mentality goes. We're going to get a year's worth of goal done
mm,
in a quarter
mm.
only because we put a quarter goal on ourselves. And it's
Yeah.
really silly because humans are silly, but this is how it works. And it's been proven over and over. So this is how I do my goal planning. This is how we did some of our goal planning on projects we're working on. So I
Mm,
just wanted to share this with everyone because it will help you know what to do this week, next week, and 12 weeks, every week, what to do.
mm.
But you won't ever have to wake up and go, am I actually on course here?
Yes.
And you probably not because we all drift. So that said, let's start and let's just do an example
Yeah.
with you.
Sure.
What is a big goal this year that you have? I know you said for Unleashed.
Yeah, I mean, one of them was we obviously want to launch the this cohorts and small groups,
Hmm.
but as far as number of individual members, we
Hmm.
put in when we did the planning the 300
Hmm.
members this
Hmm.
year, new
Okay,
members,
so 300 members this year. So
and I think I have 50 for the quarter is what I put down as the quarter goal.
okay, so 50 for the
And
quarter.
that's not exactly even. 300 divided by four is not 50,
Sure.
but it was like to build momentum in a quarter
Hmm.
one being smaller than two, three, and four.
Hmm. Okay, so you may be familiar with SMART goals. You want them to be specific, measurable, actionable,
Mhm.
reasonable, and time bound. So
Yep.
that's the SMART acronym. So
Yep.
we want to make sure first we start there. Is it
Hmm.
specific? 50. Yep. Is it measurable? Yep.
Hmm.
Is it actionable? Not yet, but yes. I mean, we can aim towards it. Is
Hmm.
it reasonable? I think so. We didn't say 2000. So,
Right.
and then time bound. Yes, it's inside of a quarter. Okay, so we now have a SMART goal. Awesome. So we want to do 50 people, 50 new members inside of this quarter, which means by the end of March.
Yep. Yep.
If we break that down, it's about 15 or 16 a month.
Yep.
And so the next thing we want to do is go, what strategy do we want to use to get those 50? Because we
Yep.
can just say, hey, I want to make $1 million, and it may be reasonable, but I don't know how. We
Right.
ain't going anywhere.
Right.
So we've already actually talked about this. So
Hmm.
surprise, we've kind of telegraphed this conversation a little bit, but it's because we've done this already. So what is the strategy that we decided we were going to use to get to
Yeah.
those 50?
Well, I mean, we're podcasting, and that'll help bring more people in. And I have an email
Mhm.
list. The biggest push I think immediately would be you leveraging my current email list
Sure.
and doing because we're going to raise the price,
Hmm.
and we want to do a last push of get in now at the price that right now it's $27 a month, which is ridiculously low. Eventually, we want to make it 97.
Yep.
So we want to and I've had a lot of success with these types of promotions where it's get in now before we raise the price.
Yep.
So we want to do that to my list, and there's about 15,000 people on the list.
Yep. Yep. So, first strategy is to use a current list of people who are already engaged. So
Hmm.
that's a fantastic one. A lot of people have lists and they have no idea what to do with it. So
Hmm.
if you have questions about that, Ryan and I are happy to lend an ear. We've both done a ton of that work. Okay, so that's strategy one. Hit our current list to give them a time bound offer, right? That
Yes.
often works really
Yes.
well. Kind of so you have some
Definitely.
stakes.
Right.
Okay, second strategy we talked about instead of going one by one, we're
Hmm.
actually going to try and go get groups, right?
Yep. Hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about what
That
type
was
of
like the
groups.
cohort small group model. So we're going to start doing in February. We're going to do live events in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Specifically, I think we're going to have our first one in Grapevine in February,
Hmm.
and it's just going to be an unleashed meetup. Whoever wants to come is invited. Totally free event,
Hmm.
and we want to just share the vision there and actually have really good content slash discussion about what unleashing means
Hmm.
and to get members, but also we're really looking for people who want to be small group leaders, and we've
Right.
got two people in the current group right now who are planning on starting a little group of 5 or 6 members of their own. So when they start one, let's just say there's 6 of them, they automatically become members of our larger group, and that's 6 out of
Okay.
our 50 right there.
That's right. So the anytime that we can use especially when we're building a community, if we go after groups, there's a higher likelihood that you're going to hit your goals.
Yeah.
Because if you're aiming at groups, you only need 5 groups of 10 to hit 50, right?
Exactly.
Versus 50 individual conversations.
Right.
So, but
Right.
we're doing both, right?
Yes.
And then the third thing we have talked about as a strategy for the quarter is attending other events. Some of
Hmm.
them ours that not unleashed events. We host a number of events
Hmm.
in what we do, but then other people that we partner with, like Faith You're an
Hmm.
Entrepreneur,
Hmm.
CEF, Global Strategy Forum. Like we have all these groups of people that we're around that have potential group owners or
Hmm.
cohort leaders or small group leaders,
Yes.
um, church leaders, like you talked about on the
Hmm.
beginning of this call,
Yeah.
who we're going to show up and we're going to show up at their event and support
Yep.
them and have conversation and then see what their needs are and then
Hmm.
offer up Unleashed as a way to help solve that
Yes.
problem, right? So
Exactly.
it's kind of fishing, but it's targeted, right?
Right. Right.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
three big strategies, right? And so if
Hmm.
that's all we did all quarter, would we hit our goal?
Yeah.
Hopefully,
I hopefully will. Yeah.
if we pick the right strategies.
Yeah.
So 3 strategies, 3 months,
Yep.
50
And
people.
we talked
Okay.
about the big thing was, especially with those group owners, is how are we going to get in front of them? Obviously, we can invite them to our live event,
Sure.
but I had talked about one of my goals is actually just have 20 coffee meetings slash podcast guests
Yeah.
in the quarter that
Yeah.
hopefully leads to small group leaders and cohorts out of those 20. So being very targeted
Deliberate.
and strategic about who I invite on as guests to the
Yep.
show
Yep.
because I'm looking for people who will be number one, bring great content for my audience, but number two, that potentially have an opportunity to partner with us to
Hmm.
start their own group or,
Hmm.
somehow a way we can work together to do this
Yep.
together.
Yep.
That's a big one. I think that'll,
Yeah.
that right there, I think is probably my main strategy
Yeah.
with the
So
email list.
what's great is you're on to the next part of the strategy here, right? Is the first is to pick your timeline and your SMART goal. The
Hmm.
second is to pick out your big picture strategies, the three that you pick. That's layer two. And then
Yep.
layer three is the activities
Hmm.
under each of the strategies that we picked that it
Mm.
would take for that strategy to work.
Oh,
Right. So
that's
the
good.
one-to-one you just talked about,
Yep.
your main one-to-one activity is to bring podcast guest on
Hmm.
that have access to groups, like
Yep.
they're influencers probably in some way, shape, or form in their space.
Yep.
So that's your activity number one under strategy number one.
Yep.
Activity number two, which you mentioned, which is coffees,
Yep.
right? And coffees will get you in front of people and allow you to invite them onto the podcast
Yep.
also. But it could just be a
Absolutely.
coffee for the sake of a coffee. So there's two tasks right there. that
Mm-hmm.
they're strategy one. Strategy two, which they're kind of tied together. So, I mean, you'll find this oftentimes when you have a particular goal that your strategies are kind of tied together in some way, shape, or form. Because the second one is to reach out to groups,
Mm-hmm.
which is different than having a leader of a group on a podcast.
Mm.
So,
Yep.
what would we do as activities
Mm-hmm.
to pitch people that are already groups? And I think the easiest way to talk about this is probably like
Yeah.
churches. They already have
Yeah.
groups and a need.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, well, I think it'd be, well, I mean, tell me if you think it'd be different or what we don't agree, but I'd be looking for the leaders of the like the small groups pastor if they have one, and just
Hmm.
building a relationship with them in some way.
Hmm.
Could I? Well, it comes back to having coffee with them,
Hmm.
inviting them to one of our Unleashed meetups in person if they're
Yes.
local,
Yep.
or having them on a podcast guest if I can find an angle that it's will
Hmm.
serve my audience and also be a way to get in front of them.
Yeah. Well, and so I think for clarity and the way I like to bucket this out is to keep them separate, and then they'll be cross pollination for sure.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I would say like for the uh, church people, we
Hmm.
want to invite them to events that we host.
Hmm.
So that is a specific task that will get to those people that will
Yeah.
have some value in it for them,
Hmm.
and that will get us into strategy two. And then of
Hmm.
course we can invite
That's
them
good.
over to be a
That's
podcast
good.
host. And then number three is we want to go to other events and find people we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And so what tasks would you do there to make sure that that
Um,
was worth your
I mean,
time?
I'm already getting emails for events that would be perfect that just
Yes.
I've never been able to attend or haven't attended for whatever reason. So it's
Yeah.
just a matter of picking which ones might be strategic,
Hmm.
like which was going to be the best use of my time,
Yep.
because we could be gone at events every single day, all day long if we wanted to, but
100%.
then it's just not a great use of our time if we're not
Hmm.
planning it well or being strategic about it. So I'd probably be looking through my own inbox, like what have I gotten in the past that would be, oh, with this hat on of trying to grow this movement, which of these would be a good event for me to be at?
Yeah. 100%. So we're going to be really picky in a good way. We're going to filter out the events that are going to do two things for us. Number one, they're going to put us in front of the right people that
Hmm.
potentially have groups. But number two, will get us invited to more events by attending this event.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of times, if you go in and you attend an event once or twice or three times, they're always looking for people to host tables. They're always looking for
Hmm.
people to speak. They're always looking for people to
Yeah.
sponsor. Then
Yeah.
if you get your face around a certain group and you really like it, then your
Hmm.
opportunities graduate.
Yes.
And
Yep.
too many people jump into networking opportunities and just try and host or just try and speak versus coming in and seeing if the group's even right for them,
Yeah. That's
getting
good.
to know leadership and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that right there fills out all the activities we would have to do
Mhm.
to
This
reach
was,
the three
do you have a
strategies.
visual for this? Because you painted a picture in my head of what this looks like.
It's in the 12-week yearbook.
Okay, perfect. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I have
Okay.
my own language around it,
I'll
but that's
find an image for
yeah.
that online because I'm sure
It's
there is one, and then I will post it in the show notes because I think that would be
man,
very helpful.
man. Yeah, well, we'll do that. We'll do
No
that.
problem. I'll be able to find that probably very quickly.
Oh, here it is.
You found it.
Oh no, never mind. And that's another stack. That's the thing is when you're a reader, there's books everywhere all the time. Okay, so that's like your main framework. That's
Yeah.
like your three layers of things. Then you actually go into specifics of either stuff that you are going to know. And let me give you an example of this. Is if we wanted to invite. Well, I want to do this first. You and I have been talking with our other group team members recently about some Bible stories that relate to how we're doing work.
Hmm.
Meaning, and this is a concept that I've used in network for a long time, and that God's really kind of revealed some cool new stuff around it. And the scripture being a biblical principle, in
Hmm.
that you have everything you need already.
Yes.
You know all the people you need to know
Hmm.
already
Hmm.
to get to the next step,
Yes.
not to accomplish the big, massive vision that God has for you,
Yes. Yes.
but for this season, God has already put the people in
Mm.
your life, or
So
He's put
good.
you one
Yeah.
person away, right?
Yep.
From who that person is. So
Yep.
technically, you should have access to everything you need right now for this quarter.
Yeah, talking about a book, I already showed you this, but this guy's
Yes.
local. I'm going to try to get him on the show. But The Power of Who by Bob Bodine talks about that exact thing right there.
Hmm. Hmm. And the only two networking groups I'm still even related with operate on this concept.
Mm,
It's fantastic. So that being said, when we're talking about going and inviting pastors
mm-hmm,
to one of our events, like an Unleashed event, for example,
mm-hmm.
we don't need to go get a cold list of pastors and everybody in DFW, right,
Yes.
and get 2,000 new pastor names. We need to go look at our LinkedIn current first and second degree connections
Yeah.
or whatever, and go, who have I talked to before?
Mm-hmm.
And why would this be helpful for them? What value
Yeah.
would this provide for them?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's just a phone call or a quick, a Zoom or something where we go, hey, I'm just catching up. There's a lot of stuff I'm doing with churches,
Mm-hmm.
and we're building out some new resources, and I really just want to know what you guys are working on. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that alone will get you 5, 10, 20 people in a room that can then introduce you to 5, 10, 20
Yes.
other people.
Yes.
And if that's how you think about it, then that's how you operate,
Mm.
and that's all you're focused on.
Yeah.
And so that's where this works in all three of these strategies.
Mm-hmm.
Like podcast guests, you and I sat down and went, who do we know? Who's on our top 100? Who we already know we want,
Yeah.
right? Pastors or parachurch leaders or executive directors of nonprofits. Who do we already know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then third category was other. What are events we already know? Like you said, I'm going to just go into my inbox. I'm going to see what's already out there. What have I been to
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
Um, so that's ideal, best case. Now I know there's going to be people out there saying, "Yeah, I don't really have a network," right? Okay, I mean, you may not have the network you want yet,
Mm-hmm.
but you have a network.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
this is something one of my mentors taught me a couple of years ago when we were trying to grow an organization, was that you need to go ask the people that you don't think have anything to do with what you're doing, and ask them who
Mm.
they know
That's so good.
that can fulfill this thing. Hey, what pastors do you know that you would just recommend I talk to?
Yeah.
And then you can ask 50 people that, because everyone knows
Yes.
50 people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where that focus comes in and
Mm.
allows you to do it.
So in our with Unleashed, let's say we're
Hmm.
looking for small group leaders, cohort leaders.
Hmm.
Well, just thinking, so those of you that are listening, think just put in place instead of Unleashed. I'm trying to grow my, I just launched a book, or I just created a course, or I want to launch I want to become a public speaker.
Hmm.
Insert yours into this. But Jake, you and I, we want to grow this Unleashed movement, and we're looking
Hmm.
for people that are the gatekeepers, these potential small group leaders and cohort leaders.
Hmm.
So, what question would, if you knew me and
Hmm.
you think I'm your cousin, and you think I have no idea, you and I don't even talk business because I'm not interested in business.
Right.
What question are you going to ask me related to Unleash that's going to get me to start thinking about people to send your way?
Well, assuming my cousin and I get along.
Okay, we get along.
Okay. Okay.
We talk more sports. We talk sports all the time,
Okay.
but we don't ever talk business. I don't
Okay.
appear to be interested in your business at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm somebody you can easily pick up the phone and call or text.
Okay.
And
Okay. So there's two ways I think always to approach anybody around this, because there's the "you're smart" tag,
hmm
and there's the "I trust your opinion," like "you're smart, I trust your opinion," and then
yeah.
there's the um, "hey man, I really need some help. Can you help me out?"
Mm,
So there's a personal appeal, and then there's an ego appeal, and
okay, this
you
is
basically
good.
need to know who you're talking to,
Yeah.
right? So for
Yeah.
you, I wouldn't do the ego appeal. I would do the personal appeal. If it was you, Ryan, our current relationship, I'd say, "Hey, Ryan, like I know we don't talk business a ton, which is totally cool.
Mhm.
But I'm really trying to figure something out, and I'm just curious if I can ask you if you know anybody, uh,
Mm,
like this.
yeah.
Uh, would you mind just helping me out with that, or is that
Yeah.
too big a deal?
Yeah.
Like
And for
we don't
this
have.
instance, would it be like, would you say, what pastors do you know personally?
Well, and if he's not a churchgoer, I probably wouldn't ask for
Sure.
pastors. Because
Sure.
I think you and I have probably three or four categories of good potential cohort
Yes.
leaders. Doesn't have to be a pastor.
Correct.
Um,
Absolutely.
there's several categories. I would ask whatever category made the most sense for my cousin.
Yeah. Got it.
Right? Like teams, sports. Hey, do you have any? You know, I'd have to think about it, but you personalize it, right?
Yes.
Personalize it.
Yeah.
This is the lost art of picking up the phone or zooming and
hmm
going, "Hey, dude, personal ask for you. We never talk business. I know
Yeah.
you're into sports. Do you know any teams that might be interested in like this curriculum that I'm building? I'm helping write it and everything.
Yeah.
There's a book
Yeah.
coming out. I'm just trying to figure out who to like get in front of this book. Do you know any sports teams that do you and your buddies coach any basketball teams? Like
Yeah.
whatever, you personalize
Good.
it.
Very
Because
good.
otherwise, mass appeal gets you very little engagement.
Right.
Mass emails get you very little engagement. Even if you're a really good writer
Hmm.
or good on video, like anymore, people are just so burnt out on
Yeah.
that. But
Yes.
if you make 20 personalized appeals,
Hmm.
right, you're going to get a few people that will open
Yeah.
up your network.
Yes. That's good.
Because if you get, let's just say you get 5 people from referral,
Hmm.
and those 5 people are open and have a conversation with you in some way, shape, or form, you
Hmm.
now have 5 other people to ask for referrals.
Yep. Exactly.
Cool. This may not be for you. I'm glad we spent time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Are
Hmm.
there any other pastors in the area that you know that just like would maybe really dig this? Because we're trying
Yeah.
to figure out how to make this the best
So
for
good.
people who like this.
Yeah.
So anybody else I should talk to?
Yeah. So would you literally just go like through your open up Facebook, go through your Facebook friends and be like, "Oh, I haven't talked to that person in a long time. Let's send them a quick message telling them, hey, here's what's I know we haven't chatted in a while, Jake. Here's something that I've been up to since we last talked. Do you know any of dot 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 these types of people that I you could introduce me to?"
Yes, and with a asterisk,
Uh-huh.
because I've done multi-level marketing.
Uh-huh.
I know what that ask looks
There you
like,
go.
and
Hey, I didn't think about that.
I will not do it again. But I was hustling in my 20s in that.
Yes.
Um, I'm big on framing, which is
Uh-huh.
another. We could do a whole episode on framing, but
Yeah.
essentially in the sales process, it's called framing. But you can use this in any relationship. I would lead with something like that, who's someone I hadn't talked to in a while, and say, "Hey, would it be weird if I asked you for some help about a project I'm working on?"
Mm.
FYI, it's not an MLM. Like
Right.
literally, I would say that because some
Yeah.
people are so gun shy,
Right.
right?
Especially if it's somebody you haven't talked to in years, they're thinking, oh yeah, he's going through his Rolodex looking for people
Yes,
he can
because they
contact.
know. And so the way to frame that is,
Yeah.
hey, I know this is weird. I know we haven't. You're a frat buddy, and we haven't talked in 20 years.
Yeah.
So would it be weird if I ask you to help me out on this project? I'm just trying to find some people,
That's right.
right? And then they go, yeah, it would be weird. Like, okay, cool, thanks. Hope you're doing well. You know?
But you probably aren't going to get that response. No, I bet most of the time they're going to be like, dude, it's been so long. Great to hear from you.
Yeah,
How's it
yeah,
going? Sure.
yeah.
Happy to help if I can.
Well, if you haven't burned those bridges in the
That's
past,
true.
yes, with the MLM, you know, because I did have a couple of those after I'd been in MLM. I was like, dude, no, it's not MLM. I promise, I'm out of that. I'm not here to bug you. Like, so
You don't want to
I've
lead
been,
with, hey, do you want to be unleashed? No,
yeah,
maybe not.
no, that
No,
sounds very
probably not
pitchy
that
too.
either.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, and then if you do know them, you just haven't talked to them a lot. Like they're just kind of in the middle somewhere. Because there's people that I could call up and they would be totally fine to chat with me. I just haven't talked to them in a while, right? They'd
Right.
be like, "Hey, um, no, we haven't chatted in a while. I'd love to catch up. I've got a new thing I'm working on. I'd love to hear about what you're working on."
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, just be in the context of your relationship.
Yes.
If it's somebody you've talked to recently, or and maybe it's been a year or two, yeah, something like that's going to be totally fine because that person is going to be glad to get on a Zoom call with you or meet you for coffee.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. And the beauty of this whole strategy is that we're not talking to anybody new. Is that
right,
we're not cold calling anybody.
right,
And if we are, it's because we're asking for a warm handoff.
yeah,
Because I don't do any handoffs. I don't. When people go, "Oh, here's their email," I will always say, "This is awesome. Thank you so much.
yes,
I've never met this person, and I'm going to ask them about stuff. So I'm like appear random. Would you mind just introducing me, however you want to? If not, that's
yeah,
cool. And then
yes.
if they don't, I don't reach out.
Yeah, that's so good. Um, I like to make things simple. Now, you and I have
Mm,
talked about this, but
mhm,
I wanted to make this year's goals as simple as possible and get it to be where it's actionable items, like the 20 coffee meetings per
mm,
quarter.
mhm.
Now tell me if I'm going this about this the wrong way. But yes, I
Yep.
have the 50 members a month in the back of my head, or 50 members in a quarter in the back of my head. But to me, it's more about I can't really control that. That's
Mhm.
like God, I pray for 50 new members.
Yep.
But I can control the number 20 with coffee
Yes.
meetings and podcast guests. I
Yes.
mean, assuming people say yes, but I'm pretty certain I can get to 20 in a quarter. That
Oh
shouldn't be
gosh.
hard.
I
I
hope so.
mean,
Yeah.
maybe you might even say that's too little, but
Yeah.
That's the number I can control. So is it better for me to focus on the 20 and then just like hopefully it leads to the 50?
Mm-hmm.
Or what are your thoughts on that? Because to me, that's a number I can actually, I can do
Yeah.
something about that.
Absolutely. There's a great book called The Four Disciplines of Execution,
Mm,
40X. You could Google that.
okay.
And it's kind of the grandfather, it's kind of the old school of this generation of like your EOS systems and your
Uh-huh.
scaling up, like all kind of they're all in that same category. They're all versions of like how do you set up your business
Mm-hmm.
to grow in stages and things like that. And one of the things that they talk about is leading indicators and
Yes.
lagging indicators.
Yes. Yes.
Lagging indicators are the ones we all measure that we can't do anything about because they already
Yeah.
passed. It's
Yeah.
website visits, it's clicks, it's
Mm-hmm.
purchases, it's
Mm-hmm.
emails opened, it's likes on social media posts. Those have already happened. It
Yeah.
tells us how well we did, but does not
Mm-hmm.
tell us what to do next. And all we
Yeah.
can control is what we do next. So to your
Yes.
point, we want to measure leading indicators, and a
Yes.
leading indicator. That was actually the very last part of this stage. If we get down to like to the nitty gritty, is like what are we doing? What are the major strategies? What are the activities? How do we measure it? How do we measure
Mm,
success? We measure with leading indicators, not lagging.
that's so good.
So it's if it's in the
Yes.
first category, it's number of phone calls I made to
Yeah.
get meetings. If you want to get really down to it, you can't
Yes.
even control how many meetings you get. You can control how many times you ask for
Yes. Yes.
meetings.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's good.
So any leading indicator
Yeah.
that you can think of for any one of the activities that you list will put
Mm-hmm.
you in not only the best opportunity to succeed, it's the best opportunity to see why you didn't succeed.
Yeah.
Because you go, I made 20 phone calls this week and I only got one, like, so only one person answered my phone call.
Right.
So I need to change my phone approach,
Yes. Yes.
right? Or whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah, because those are things you can change, and you can because once you also in business, if you get to a point to where if I do this one thing, if I make 20 calls, you'll still have stats, and you'll be able to use
Yes.
data to tell
Yes.
you. So last year I made 20 calls a quarter, and it produced this. So this year I know if I keep the same stats and I do 40 calls this quarter, I should double my business. Right.
That's how you grow consistently,
Yeah.
like predictably.
Yeah.
Because until you've done it and you know how good you are, like for me, for example, I know if I get 10 people into a Zoom call to book services, I'm
Hmm.
going to get at least six of them seriously considering because I'm
Hmm.
filtering. And of those six, I'm closing 3 to 4 every single time.
Yeah.
I know that's how good my closing rates are. So
Yeah.
that means if I want to, that's 3 to 4 out of 10, right?
Hmm.
Which is 30 to 40%, which
Hmm.
means if I want to close 10 a month, I got to do 30 calls
Yep.
because that's my rates. I know it.
Yep. That's so good. Yep. And then you can also go further with that is how much is each one of those people worth to me? Then you know how
Mhm.
much you can spend on ads if you are doing that side of things,
Yeah,
like
like I
Facebook
love
ads
working
or
backwards
whatever.
that way because I'm like, how much do I want to make a month? I want to make 20 grand a month off of this particular product offering or service offering.
Yes.
Great. How much is it per? It's 5K per. Okay, I got to sell four of them at 5K per to get to 20K. How many
Yeah.
calls do I need for four? Well, 10. And if I want, let's go with 12 just in case.
Uh-huh.
So if I get 12 calls,
Hmm.
qualified calls, I can get to
Hmm.
20K a month.
Yeah.
That's why high ticket's so popular these days is
Yes.
the but it's a whole lot harder to get 12 filtered qualified people on the phone now these days.
Hmm.
But once
Hmm.
you do, okay, that's how I get to
Yeah.
20K. That's all I need to measure.
Yeah. So just simple, it makes it easier. I just need to focus on that 12
That's it.
and not
Get
worry
12
about all
people
this other
on. How do I
stuff.
get 12 qualified people on the phone on a Zoom call with me?
Yeah.
That's my work for the quarter.
That's it. Yeah. Wow. That makes it so much easier because then if
Mhm.
opportunities come your way, and is that going to help me get to my 12? No. Okay. Well, I probably shouldn't do that.
Exactly. Yeah, why am I going to this network meeting once a week when I've never ever got anyone to come onto a call with
Yeah.
me?
Well, the food's good.
Great. Get yourself a gift card to
That's
Shoney's then.
right.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's the thing is when I read that book, it continued to help me clarify how
Mm,
simple business can be, and that
yeah.
the real problem is us drifting
Yeah.
or not just failing to go through a plan to make it
Yes.
simplified.
Okay, so we got just a couple minutes left. This is something we probably should talk more about and go deeper on those different levels that are below this.
Right.
But can we re-summarize if somebody
Yep.
just listened
Yep.
to this last 3 minutes of the
Yes.
episode?
Yes. Shame on you. But here you go. TLDR. Too long, didn't listen, didn't read. The top level is pick a big picture goal for the year
Hmm.
and put it in 1 quarter because we expand to the amount of time we have. So let's shrink it down to a quarter. Well, I forget what the saying is. You can do more in a year. We overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what we can do in a
Mm,
year.
yeah.
Right. Um, or maybe it's vice versa. But point is, we expand. So pick a big picture goal, put it in a quarter. Then pick ideally like three major strategies that will help you get to that big picture goal.
Hmm.
Then under that big picture strategy, pick two, three, four, five activities under each strategy that you know will help you make that strategy work.
Hmm.
And then down at the bottom, pick leading indicators. Sorry, you gotta go back and listen to that whole section. Leading indicators, not lagging indicators, that will help you measure each week if you're doing
Yes.
those activities right.
Yeah. And it's
And
mainly
then
just the activities that you're doing, the phone
just the
calls
activities.
that lead to the sales, not
If
not
you're a
the
writer,
this.
if you're a speaker, if you're a phone person, whatever
Yep.
those actions are that get you in front of people, that's what you're measuring,
That's it.
and that's it. And then, of course, the key is to measure them every week. Did
Hmm.
I do it? Why didn't I
Yes.
do it? Did it
Yes.
work? Didn't it work? And
Good.
then accountability above all, which is one of the reasons
Why
we
we have
like the whole
Unleashed.
unleashed community.
Right.
There's opportunities for
Exactly.
accountability there.
Yes. So good. Is
Yep.
this how much more is that, like, if we were doing how many more podcasts could we do on this? How many more
Oh,
levels to this is there in the 12 week
um,
year?
man. Well, depending how deep you wanted to go, because if
Yeah.
you turn this, I've taught this for 4 hours
Okay.
as a workshop, but
Hmm.
that's because people sit down and like we'll actually break out, we'll do the work, we'll come
Okay.
back, we'll
Mm,
go, well, that's not quite it, or why did you choose that over this,
mm,
and really get practical about it. So,
yeah.
hey, maybe we could do a roundtable. Maybe we could do two or three other people could come on that want to do this
Yeah.
activity,
Oh, that'd
and
be
we could
cool.
just spend an hour doing it. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
That'd probably be
but yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir.
Mhm.
I'll have you on again very soon, I'm sure. And you guys might even see his face on some episodes. He's got people he wants to interview, so he may even do some episodes by himself. We'll see with
Yep.
the guests. But Jake,
Yep.
thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Of course, glad to get on here and box some stuff around with you.
Anytime.
Yep.